Hello parents, we're super excited about what November has in store for your BT little kid. We are talking donuts all month long. Why? Because donuts are good, and we want them to remind our kids that God is good. And so all month long, we're talking about the fact that we can celebrate who God is because He's good, and we can thank Him for the good things that He gives us. So this first week, by the way, it's the week when we fall back an hour for Daylight Savings Time and PJ Sunday. We are talking about how God gives us every good and perfect gift. And we're going back to the beginning, back to creation, where God created the world and everything in it, and He gave it to us as a way to show us that He is good and that we can remember that I can thank God because He's good. And then the next week, we're going to talk about the fact that we can thank God for the food that He gives us. And we're going to do that by using the story of Elijah and the widow. Elijah's hungry. He's been out ministering to God's people, and he doesn't have any food to eat. And he comes along a widow and asks her for some food. And she's like, I don't have any food to give you. So you know what? He says, God's the one who's going to provide. And so she uses her last bit of flour and oil to make a meal. And the next morning, God has provided more flour and oil, enough for the next day's meal. And that continues. So we're learning about how I can thank God for food. And then the next week, we're going to be talking about the fact that God puts people in our lives, family and friends, that we can be grateful for. We're going to look at the story of Moses and how he had help from Aaron and a guy named Hur during the battle of the Amalekites. And when Moses couldn't keep the staff up any longer, Aaron and Hur held up his arms so that way the staff could be held up and God's army would win. And so we're talking about how I can thank God for friends and family. And then the last week, we are going to be talking about the story of Nehemiah and how Nehemiah saw that the wall in Jerusalem was in disrepair. It needed to be fixed, but it was a big job, and he needed help to do it. So he asked the Israelites to help him, and they did. And so we're learning that we can thank God for the people who help us. So all month long, we're going to be celebrating that we can thank God and we can love God because He's good. And that brings us to our Bible verse, which is Psalm 107:1. Give thanks to the Lord, for He is good. And that's our month this month. We are super excited about all the amazing ways we are going to celebrate and be grateful for a God who is good.